Part 1. The new student at Galactic Academy of Unified Species was the biggest school in the known universe. It sat on a giant space station that floated between 3 different star systems. Every year, thousands of young aliens came here to learn, to train, and to become soldiers, scientists, or diplomats. The Academy had seen students from over 500 different planets. But in all its long history, it had never seen a student quite like the one who walked through its doors that morning. Her name was Yuna. She was small. Very small. By galactic standards, she was tiny. She stood only 1.6 meters tall, and her body looked soft and weak compared to the armored, scaled, and muscled bodies of the other students around her. She had dark hair that she kept tied back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were dark too, and they moved slowly across the orientation hall, taking in everything without showing any emotion. The whispers started the moment she entered. "Is that a human?" A Pelian student asked his friend. His feathered crest was standing straight up with fear. "It cannot be," the friend replied. "Humans do not leave their world. They cannot survive anywhere else." "But look at the registration badge. It says Earth. That is the human planet, the Deathworld." That word spread through the hall like fire through dry grass. Deathworld. Every species in the galaxy knew what that word meant. It meant a planet so dangerous, so violent, so cruel that no sensible creature would ever live there. It meant a world where gravity crushed bones, where the atmosphere was filled with corrosive oxygen, where radiation poured down from the sky, where predators hunted in every corner, and where diseases changed faster than medicine could keep up. Earth was a Class 12 Deathworld, the highest rating possible, and Yuna had grown up there. She did not seem to notice the stares and the whispers. She walked calmly to the registration desk, showed her documents to the nervous administrator, and received her room assignment and class schedule. Then she walked away, her footsteps quiet on the metal floor. In the observation room above the hall, 2 instructors watched her go. The first was Commander Velthos. He was a Draven, a species of tall, powerful warriors covered in hard exoskeletal plates. He had 4 arms, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He had been teaching combat at the academy for over 200 cycles, and he had trained thousands of soldiers. He was proud. He was confident. And he did not believe the stories about humans. "Another Deathworlder," he said, his voice rough and low. "They always disappoint. I give her 1 lunar cycle before she washes out." The second instructor was Murak, a Pelian. He was smaller than Velthos, covered in soft gray feathers, with large, nervous eyes. He was Velthos's assistant, and he had learned long ago that arguing with the commander was pointless. But today, something made him speak up. "Sir," he said carefully, "the briefing materials mention that humans have unusual biological characteristics. Perhaps we should study them before making judgments." Velthos turned his 4 eyes toward Murak. The look he gave was cold enough to freeze plasma. "Unusual characteristics?" Velthos repeated. "I have heard the stories, Murak. Humans can run for hours without stopping. Humans can heal from wounds that would kill other species. Humans can survive in temperatures that range from freezing to boiling. Humans can eat poisons for pleasure and drink fermented chemicals for fun." He made a sound of disgust. "Propaganda. Myths created to make a primitive backwater species seem impressive. I have seen many Deathworlders come to this academy. They are all the same. Strong perhaps, but slow. Durable perhaps, but stupid. They do not last." Murak lowered his crest in submission. "Yes, Commander." But as he watched the small human female disappear down the corridor, he could not shake the feeling that this time might be different. The first 3 weeks passed slowly for Yuna. She attended her classes. She completed her assignments. She sat in the back of every room and spoke to almost no one. The other students avoided her. It was not hatred that kept them away. It was fear. Every species in the galaxy had evolved with some kind of instinct for danger, and something about the small human female triggered that instinct in all of them. She walked too quietly. She watched too carefully. When she moved, there was a smoothness to her motion that did not look right. It was like watching a predator pretend to be prey. The only person who approached her was another human dot. Her name was Hana. She was older than Yuna by several years, and she had been at the academy for a full cycle already. She had dark hair like Yuna, but she wore it short, and there were small scars on her hands and arms that told stories of a hard life. She found Yuna sitting alone in the meal hall one evening and sat down across from her without asking permission. "You are the new one," Hana said. It was not a question. Yuna looked up from her nutrient supplement. "Yes, I am Hana. I am also from Earth, Sol, originally. You, Bizin?" Hana nodded slowly. "The instructors are talking about you, especially Velthos. It is not like you." Yuna returned her attention to her food. "I have not done anything to him. You do not need to. You exist. That is enough." Hana leaned forward, her voice dropping low. "The Draven are a proud species. They see themselves as the greatest warriors in the galaxy. And then humans arrived. Small, soft, strange humans from a planet that should have killed them 1,000,000 times over. The Draven do not understand how we survived. It frightens them. And when a Draven is frightened, he becomes angry." "I am not here to fight," Yuna said quietly. "I am here to learn." "I know, but Velthos does not see it that way. To his species, silence is a challenge. And you have been very, very silent." Hana stood, picking up her tray. "Be careful, Yuna. He is looking for an excuse to prove that humans are weak. Do not give him one." Yuna watched Hana walk away. Then she turned back to her meal, her face as calm and unreadable as ever. But deep in her chest, something stirred. A feeling she had learned to control long ago on the dangerous streets of Bizin, in the crowded shelters after the floods. In the hard years, when survival was the only lesson that mattered. It was not fear. It was readiness. And somewhere in the academy, Commander Velthos was making his plans. Never knowing that the small human female he dismissed as weak and primitive was more dangerous than anything he had ever faced in 200 cycles of war. The storm was coming, and Yuna was ready. Part 2. The challenge. Commander Velthos could not stop thinking about the human dot. It had been 3 weeks since Yuna arrived at the academy, and in that time, she had done absolutely nothing remarkable. She attended every class. She finished every assignment. She never spoke out of turn. She never caused trouble. By every measure, she was a perfect student, and that was exactly what bothered him. Velthos had trained warriors for 200 cycles. He had seen every kind of student pass through his training hall. The aggressive ones who thought they already knew everything. The timid ones who flinched at every loud noise. The lazy ones who tried to slide by with minimum effort. The eager ones who worked too hard and burned out fast. He knew how to handle all of them, but Yuna fit none of those categories. She sat in his combat theory classes with perfect stillness. Her eyes followed his every movement, but her face showed nothing. No fear, no excitement, no boredom. Just calm, steady attention that never wavered. When he asked questions, she answered correctly but briefly. When he demonstrated techniques, she watched without blinking. When he assigned practice drills, she completed them with quiet efficiency. She was like a pool of still water. And Velthos did not trust still water. In his experience, still water was either very shallow or very deep. And something told him that this human was not shallow at all. "You are thinking about her again," Mirak said one morning as they prepared the training hall for the day's lessons. Velthos made an annoyed sound. I am thinking about the curriculum. Nothing more. Of course, Commander. Mirak did not believe him, but he was too smart to say so. The class began like any other. 30 students from 12 different species filed into the training hall and took their positions. Yuna entered last and stood in the back corner, as she always did. Velthos watched her from the corner of his 4 eyes while he explained the day's lesson. Today, they would practice defensive formations. It was basic material, nothing challenging. But Velthos had other plans. Halfway through the class, he stopped in the middle of a demonstration and turned to face the students. His eyes found Yuna immediately. "You," he said, his voice cutting through the hall like a blade. "Human, step forward." The other students went silent. Every head turned toward Yuna. The fear in the room was thick enough to taste. Yuna did not hesitate. She walked forward with that strange, smooth motion that made the other students nervous. She stopped in the center of the training circle and stood before the towering instructor. Velthos was nearly 3 meters tall. His exoskeletal plates gleamed under the artificial lights. His forearms hung at his sides, each one thick with muscle and tipped with sharp claws. Next to him, Yuna looked like a child. "I have been observing you," Velthos said. He began to circle her slowly, like a predator examining prey. "You are different from the other students. You move differently. You watch differently. You think differently." Yuna said nothing. She stood perfectly still, her eyes following him as he moved. "Some of my colleagues believe that humans are special," Velthos continued. "They believe the stories about your Deathworld. They believe that growing up on such a planet makes your species strong and dangerous." He stopped directly in front of her and leaned down until his face was level with hers. His breath was hot and smelled of sulfur. "I do not believe these stories. I believe that humans are primitive creatures from a primitive world. I believe that you have survived not because you are strong, but because the galaxy has been kind enough to leave you alone." Still, Yuna said nothing. Her face remained calm and empty. Velthos straightened and addressed the class. "Today, we will have a special demonstration. This human claims to be a combat student. Let us see if she deserves that title." A nervous murmur passed through the students. Mirak stepped forward, his feathered crest flat with worry. "Commander," he said quietly, "perhaps we should review the regulations first. The Academy has specific rules about instructor-student contact during training. If something were to go wrong, nothing will go wrong," Velthos interrupted. "This is merely a lesson. The human will attempt to defend herself against a single strike from me. If she remains standing, she passes the exercise. If she falls, she will be reassigned to non-combat studies." He flexed his clawed hand, the plates on his arm clicking together. "I will use only 20% of my strength. More than sufficient for any cadet." Mirak wanted to argue more, but the look in the commander's eyes stopped him. This was not about training. This was about pride. Velthos wanted to prove that humans were nothing special. He wanted to break the myth of the Deathworlders in front of his entire class, and he was going to use Yuna to do it. "Do you understand the rules?" Velthos asked Yuna. "Yes, sir." "Do you have any questions?" "No, sir." "Then prepare yourself." Yuna shifted her weight slightly. It was such a small movement that most of the students did not even notice it. But Mirak saw it, and something about that tiny adjustment made his feathers stand up on the back of his neck. He had seen soldiers prepare for battle before. He had seen warriors ready themselves for combat. He had seen the way trained fighters positioned their bodies before a fight. Yuna was doing all of those things, and she was doing them so smoothly, so naturally, that it looked like she was doing nothing at all. Velthos did not notice. He was too focused on proving his point. He raised his right arm, the largest and strongest of his 4 limbs, and pulled it back for the strike. "Remember," he announced to the class, "this is 20%. Watch how the human falls." His arm came forward, and everything changed. Part 3. The strike of Velthus's arm moved fast. Very fast. The Draven were known across the galaxy as some of the quickest warriors in existence. Their muscles could contract and release in fractions of a second. Most species could not even see a Draven strike coming before it landed. His open palm hit Yuna's shoulder with a sound like thunder. The impact echoed through the training hall. Every student held their breath. Every eye watched the small human female. Every eye watched the small human female, waiting to see her fly across the room and crash into the far wall. She did not move. Yuna was still standing in exactly the same spot. Her feet had not shifted. Her body had not swayed. She had simply absorbed the blow like it was nothing more than a gentle push. For a long moment, no one made a sound. The silence in the training hall was so complete that they could hear the hum of the station's power systems through the walls. Velthos stared at his own arm. It was still extended, still pressed against her shoulder. His mind could not understand what his eyes were showing him. He had hit her with 20% of his strength. That was enough force to crack the armor plates of a Draven warrior. That was enough force to shatter stone. That was enough force to kill most species in the galaxy dot, and the human had not even flinched. "Is that 20%? Yuna asked quietly. Her voice was calm, polite. There was no mockery in it, no challenge. She was simply asking a question, the same way she might ask about a homework, assignment, or a schedule change. Something hot and angry flared in Velthus's chest. His 4 eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. He pulled his arm back and struck again. 30%. His palm hit her shoulder again, harder this time. The sound was louder. The force was greater. Any normal creature would have been thrown backward like a toy. Yuna shifted her weight slightly. Her knees bent just a fraction. Her back foot slid back a few centimeters. But she did not fall. She did not stagger. She simply flowed with the impact, redirecting the force down through her body and into the floor. Then she was still again. Velthus's breathing was getting faster now. The students could see his chest plates rising and falling rapidly. This was not possible. This was not happening. This small, soft, primitive creature from a backwater Deathworld was making him look like a fool in front of his entire class. He struck again. 40%. Yuna adjusted again. Her body moved like water, like smoke, like something that could not be grabbed or broken. The force of the blow passed through her and disappeared into nothing. 50%. Still, she stood. 60%. The floor beneath her feet cracked from the transferred energy. But Yuna remained upright. Her eyes never left Velthus's face. Her expression never changed. She was watching him the same way she watched everything else. Calm, patient, calculating. And that was when Velthos felt something he had not felt in over a century. Fear had started as a cold trickle at the base of his spine. It spread upward through his nerve clusters, making his plates feel loose and his muscles feel weak. His species had evolved as apex predators on their homeworld. They had sharp claws and hard armor and fast reflexes. Nothing had ever threatened them. Nothing had ever made them afraid. But now, looking into the dark, steady eyes of this small human female, Velthos felt his ancient instincts screaming at him. They were screaming that he was not facing prey. He was facing something else. Something his body recognized even if his mind refused to accept it. A predator. A real predator. Something that had evolved to hunt and kill and survive in an environment so hostile that it made his own homeworld look like a gentle garden. "Commander," Mirak called out, his voice high with worry. "Perhaps we should stop the exercise. The regulations clearly state that silence." Velthos roared. The fear in his chest had transformed into rage. He would not be humiliated by this creature. He would not be made weak. He had trained for 200 cycles. He had fought in 3 interstellar wars. He was Commander Velthos, the greatest combat instructor the Academy had ever known. He would break this human. If it was the last thing he did, he drew back all 4 of his arms. His plates locked into combat position. His muscles tensed with every bit of power his body could generate. "Full strength," he growled. "Let us see how you handle full strength." The students gasped. Several of them began backing toward the walls. Full strength from a Draven was enough to punch through starship hulls. It was enough to kill armored vehicles. No living creature could survive a full-strength blow from Commander Velthos. Mirak was shouting now, trying to stop what was about to happen. But Velthos was beyond hearing. His rage had consumed him completely. He swung all 4 arms at once, aiming for the center of Yuna's body. And then Yuna moved. It was not the kind of movement the students expected. She did not jump backward or dive to the side. She did not try to run or dodge or escape. Instead, she stepped forward, toward Velthos, into the path of his strike. Her hands came up. They touched his arms lightly, almost gently. And then she twisted. The physics of what happened next would be studied by Academy scientists for years to come. Yuna used Velthos's own momentum against him. She redirected the force of his swing, changing its direction by just a few degrees. She pulled him off balance, using leverage instead of strength. She guided his massive body around and down, turning his attack into a fall dot. It all happened in less than 2 seconds. And when it was done, Commander Velthos was on the ground. The most powerful warrior in the Academy was lying on his back, staring up at the ceiling with wide, unbelieving eyes, and standing over him, calm and quiet and still, was why Yuna. Her hand was positioned at his throat, right where the soft tissue between his neck plates was exposed. One push, and she could have killed him. But she did not push. She just waited, and the entire training hall watched in shocked, terrified silence. Part 4. 30 seconds. The silence lasted for exactly 5 heartbeats. Then the chaos began. Students screamed. Some ran for the doors. Others pressed themselves against the walls, too terrified to move. Mirak rushed forward with a medical scanner in his shaking hands, his feathered crest standing straight up in pure panic. But Yuna did not move. She remained standing over Velthos, her hand still positioned at his throat, her eyes still calm and steady. She was breathing normally. Her heart rate was normal. She looked exactly the same as she had before the fight began. That was the most frightening thing of all. Velthos tried to rise. His 4 arms pushed against the floor, his muscles straining with all their considerable strength. But his body would not obey him. Something strange was happening inside him. His thoughts were becoming slow and foggy. His vision was becoming dark around the edges. His limbs felt heavy and distant, like they belonged to someone else. "What? What did you do to me?" he managed to say. His voice came out weak and slurred, nothing like the powerful roar that had filled the training hall just moments ago. Yuna tilted her head slightly. "I did nothing," she said. "Your own body is doing this. It is called predator-induced systemic shutdown. Your species evolved with this response. When you face a threat that you cannot defeat, your body shuts down to make you appear dead. It is a survival mechanism." Mirak knelt beside the fallen commander, his scanner beeping frantically. "She is correct," he said, his voice trembling. "His system is flooding with paralytic compounds. His neural cluster has classified her as a Category 1 predator. His body thinks he's about to be eaten. Category 1. the highest threat classification in the galaxy, reserved for the most dangerous creatures known to exist. Creatures like the great sandworms of Tellus Prime. Creatures like the shadow beasts of the Outer Rim. Creatures that entire armies had failed to kill. And now Velthus's body was telling him that Una was one of them. Slowly, carefully, Una removed her hand from his throat and stepped back. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply returned to her neutral stance and waited. "You may call the medical team now," she said to Merak. Merak nodded and activated his communicator with shaking fingers. Within minutes, a team of doctors arrived with a floating stretcher. They lifted Velthos onto it, still paralyzed, still staring at the ceiling with wide, empty eyes. As they carried him out of the training hall, every student pressed back to give them room. No one wanted to get close to YUN, no one except Hana. The older human had been standing in the doorway, watching everything with sharp, knowing eyes. When the medical team left and the other students began to slowly drift away, she walked across the training hall and stood beside Una. "That was impressive," Hana said quietly. "It was necessary," Una replied. "Was it?" Una was silent for a moment. Then she turned to face her fellow human. "He was going to hit me with full strength. If I had tried to absorb that blow the way I absorbed the others, it would have killed me, or at least seriously injured me. I had to redirect it. There was no other choice. You could have dodged. Dodging would have looked like fear, and showing fear to a predator species is never a good idea." Hannah nodded slowly. She understood. Humans had learned long ago that sometimes the best way to survive was not to run from danger, but to face it directly. Show no fear. Show no weakness. Make the enemy question whether attacking it was really worth the risk. It was how their ancestors had survived on Earth. It was how they had faced lions and tigers and bears. It was how they had climbed to the top of the food chain on the deadliest planet in the galaxy. And it was how Una had just defeated a Draven warrior without throwing a single punch. The Academy's security officers arrived a short time later. They took Una's statement. They reviewed the training hall's recording systems. They interviewed the students who had witnessed the fight. Everything confirmed what Una had said. Velthos had initiated the confrontation. Velthos had escalated the violence. Una had simply defended herself, using minimum force and causing no permanent injury. But even so, word spread quickly through the station. By evening, everyone knew what had happened. The story grew with each telling. Some said Una had broken Velthus's arms. Others said she had torn off his plates. A few even claimed she had bitten his throat with her strange human teeth. None of these things were true. But the truth was almost stranger than the rumors. A human had defeated a Draven warrior in less than 30 seconds. A small, soft, seemingly weak human female had put one of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy on his back without even trying. The other species did not know what to make of it. Some were terrified. Some were fascinated. Some refused to believe it had happened at all. But deep in the Academy's medical wing, Commander Velthos knew the truth. He lay on his bed, slowly recovering from the shutdown, and he replayed the fight over and over in his mind. He had been so confident, so certain of his victory. He had not even considered the possibility that he might lose, and that was his mistake. Una had not beaten him with strength or speed or skill. She had beaten him with something else. Something that humans had in abundance. Patience, observation, adaptation. She had watched him for 3 weeks. She had studied his movements, his techniques, his patterns. She had learned exactly how he attacked and exactly how he thought. And when the moment came, she had used all of that knowledge against him. She had not fought him as an enemy. She had solved him as a problem. And that Velthos realized with a cold chill, was far more frightening than any weapon. Part 5. The Truth About Deathworld Shri. Days after the incident in the training hall, Una was called to the office of Admiral Korin. The Admiral was the highest authority in the Academy. She was a being so old that no one remembered exactly how many centuries she had lived. Her species had watched stars born and die. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had been part of the Galactic Council since before most other species had learned to use fire. Her office was at the very top of the station, in a room made entirely of transparent walls. Stars stretched in every direction, millions of tiny lights scattered across the endless black. It was supposed to make visitors feel small and humble. Una did not feel small. She had grown up on a planet where the sky itself tried to kill you. She had seen storms that ripped buildings apart. She had survived earthquakes and floods and fires. A few pretty stars were not going to impress her. Admiral Korin floated in the center of the room. Her body was made of light and energy, shifting through colors that had no names in any human language. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere at once. "You have caused quite a problem," Korin said. Una stood at attention, her hands clasped behind her back. "I apologize for any trouble I have caused, Admiral. I was only defending myself." "I know. I have reviewed the recordings. You did nothing wrong by Academy regulations." Korin's form flickered with complex emotions. "But regulations are not the problem. Understanding is the problem. I do not follow." Korin was silent for a long moment. The stars outside continued their slow, eternal dance. "Do you know why humans were invited to join the Academy?" Korin asked finally. "To promote cooperation between species," Una said. It was the official answer, the one printed in all the recruitment materials. "That is the public reason. The real reason is fear." Korin's form shifted to a darker shade. "When the Galactic Council first learned about Earth, we did not believe the reports. A planet where the very air was poison? Where gravity was strong enough to crush bone? Where disease and predators and natural disasters killed millions every year? Impossible. No intelligent species could evolve in such a place." "But we did," Una said quietly. "Yes, you did. And that terrified us." Korin drifted closer to Una. "We sent probes to your world. We studied your species from a distance. What we found made no sense. You had no natural weapons. No claws, no armor, no venom. Your bodies were soft and fragile. Your senses were weak. By every measure, you should have gone extinct long before you developed intelligence. But we survived. You did more than survive. You dominated. You became the apex predator of a planet that should have destroyed you. And we could not understand how." Korin's form pulsed with something that might have been frustration. "So we invited you to the Academy. We thought that if we could study you closely, if we could train you alongside other species, we would finally understand your secret. We would see that you were just like us, just adapted to a difficult environment. We would stop being afraid." Una said nothing. She was beginning to understand where this conversation was going. "But you have done the opposite," Korin continued. "You have confirmed every fear we ever had about your species. You have shown that humans are not just survivors. You are something else entirely. And what is that?" Korin's form solidified slightly, taking on a more defined shape. For a moment, she almost looked like a human herself. "You are patient," she said. "You watch and wait and learn. You adapt to any situation. You find weaknesses that no one else can see. And when you strike with precision that is almost mathematical." She paused. "Commander Velthos is one of the most powerful warriors in this sector. He has fought in 3 wars. He has killed enemies that entire armies could not defeat. And you put him on his back in 30 seconds without even hurting him. I did not want to hurt him, Una said. I know. And that is the most terrifying thing of all. The door to the office opened. Hana walked in without being invited, her footsteps confident on the transparent floor. She came to stand beside Una, and the two humans faced the ancient admiral together. You are not supposed to be here, Corin said to Hana. I know, but this conversation involves both of us. It involves all humans. Hana crossed her arms. You are afraid of us. Fine. Every species we have ever met has been afraid of us. We are used to it. But you are making a mistake if you think fear is all we have to offer. Then, what do you have to offer? Hana looked at Una. Something passed between them, a silent communication that needed no words. Then Hana turned back to the Admiral. Una could have killed Vel'Thos, she said. You know this. I know this. Everyone who watched the recording knows this. She had her hand on his throat. One push, and he would be dead. But she did not push. She chose not to. I failed to see how that makes you less dangerous. It makes us more valuable. Hana took a step forward. Every species in this galaxy is afraid of being destroyed. You build weapons and armies and alliances because you are afraid. But humans are not afraid. We have lived with death every day of our existence. We have learned that the most powerful force in the universe is not destruction. It is choice. Una spoke up, her voice soft but clear. I could have hurt him. I could have killed him. But I chose not to. Not because I was weak. Not because I was afraid. Because I did not want to. She met the Admiral's shimmering gaze. That is what humans are. We are not monsters. We are not weapons. We are creatures who have the power to destroy, but choose to build instead. We have the strength to kill, but choose to protect instead. We come from a death world, but we bring life wherever we go. Corin was silent for a very long time. The stars outside continued their slow dance. The station hummed with its endless mechanical rhythms. Finally, the Admiral spoke. You are asking me to trust you, she said. You are asking me to trust a species that frightens us more than anything else in the galaxy. Yes, Una said simply. And if I refuse? If the Council decides that humans are too dangerous to be allowed among us? Hana smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was not a challenging smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that no one else understood. Then, you will miss out on the best friends you could ever have, she said. Corin looked at the two humans standing before her. So small, so soft, so seemingly harmless. And yet, behind their calm eyes, she could see something vast and powerful and ancient. Something that had been forged in the fires of a world that should have killed them. Something that had chosen to be kind. Very well, Corin said at last. I will speak to the Council. I will tell them what I have seen here today. I will tell them that humans are dangerous, yes, but not in the way we feared. You are dangerous because you make us question everything we thought we knew about strength and power and survival. Una nodded. Thank you, Admiral. Corin's form flickered with something that might have been amusement. Do not thank me yet. The Council is very old and very set in their ways. It may take generations for them to truly accept your species. Hana shrugged. We are patient. We can wait. And with that, the two humans turned and walked out of the office, leaving the ancient Admiral alone with the stars. Behind them, something had changed. Not just in the Academy, not just in the Galactic Council, but in the very fabric of how the universe understood humanity. They were Deathworlders, yes. Survivors of a planet that tried to kill them every single day. But they were also something more. They were proof that the most powerful thing in the universe was not the ability to destroy. It was the choice not to. And that was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.